Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the BettingPros NFL podcast. I'm your host, Dan Harris. With me, of course, is Matt Peralt, host of the Daily Juice podcast. You can find him on Twitter at Sports Talk Matt. You can find me on Twitter at DanHarris80. Matt, what's up?
Well, it's week 15.
Yeah.
And we're trying to close hard here. 4-1, 4-1, 8-2, 80% over the last 2 weeks. Can't beat it. So we're hot. Now, can we end the year hot is the question.
That's right. And we've got, I'll call it an outside chance to finish in the money. We're probably going to need another 4-1 week, maybe even a 5-0 week, but we're in there now. There are 2 weeks left in the DraftKings Pro Pick'em Championship, and we have to take a bye in one of the 2 weeks, and we'll talk about it. But man, I hate this slate. I hate this slate. I do not have any game that I'm like, really going to pick. So maybe you feel strongly about it. We'll see. But in my mind, man, if you can convince me that this is not the week to take a bye, then I will be impressed. But let's get into it. We're going to go through every game on the slate as we always do. And again, Matt said we went 4-1 last week. We hit on the Rams laying 5.5 to the Patriots. Again, that was a Thursday night one. Matt tweeted out. I hope you were following him again at Sports Talk Matt. Kudos to Matt, who was all over that game last week. It was like pounding on the table, and to the extent he broke a Peralt-ism, which is never ever bet on a favorite laying 5.5, but we did. And it worked out. We also hit on the Bucs laying 6.5 to the Vikings, the Colts laying 3.5 to the Raiders, and the Ravens laying 1.5 to the Browns in a pretty entertaining game. The only loss we had was the Steelers getting 2.5 from the Bills, which, Matt, I don't know about you, a minute left in the first half, I was feeling really good about that bet.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was going to be one that we were going to walk away with. And then the second half, man, the Bills just totally adjusted, and the Steelers weren't able to do anything about it. So 4-1, whatever. Again, we've got one bye week left to go. So we may do it this week. We may do it next week. We'll have to see. But I don't know, Matt. I want to see what you've got. So start us off. Let me know. Give me a pick that you're feeling kind of good about this week.
All right. So, one of the benefits of doing these contests is that I'm in a bunch of other contests. So I can bring some of the picks that I already have locked in or I know that we're going to take in those contests and bring it to our contest. It's kind of how it's worked out where my bets and the contest picks have kind of run similarly. Yep. So these are 3 picks that we're going to use this week. There's no real particular order for it, but we can start with my team because it's my team. Mm-hmm. And I think the world is wrong about where the Dolphins are right now. I think the Dolphins are banged up. I think it's a rookie quarterback. I'm getting 2.5 points for the Patriots in a massive bounce back spot. Patriots, I believe, will win this game outright. I'm taking the Patriots plus 2.5.
I like this game, and it was one of the few that was on my list of like, yeah, I kind of feel this way. I mean, anytime you're giving me Bill Belichick versus a rookie quarterback, I'm always like, yeah, all right, fire that up. The Dolphins are just decimated in the end. I mean, Mike Gesicki did return to practice, but I can't imagine he's going to play. I don't know what's going on with the running back situation. I don't think Myles Gaskin's going to get to play. Devontae Parker is there. He's not at 100%. There's no Jakeem Grant. It's just kind of a mess. You've got the Patriots coming off a pretty embarrassing loss and a long layoff here where they can kind of lick their wounds and get back into it. Whether or not they're still mathematically alive for a playoff spot doesn't really matter. I think they're going to come out, but Matt, the one thing is I don't really feel like I have a great read on this team. I feel like you have. You know when they're going to play well. You know when they're not. Why do you think they're going to play well here? I mean, is it just that buying low, selling high type of thing, or what?
Well, it's that, but it's one, the extra time. 2, it's the fact that I think the Patriots defense, much like the way that they beat the Chargers, they confuse rookie quarterbacks like no end. I mean, they beat the Chargers 45-0. Tua, I don't think Tua is the guy. My biggest fear in this game is that Ryan Fitzpatrick gets inserted at halftime and the Patriots lose. So if Tua's in the game for all 4 quarters, if Brian Flores is going to be, this is my guy, I'm riding Tua to the end, and I'm not going to do what I did in the Denver game where Denver totally befuddled him and then they pulled him out. I think the same thing happens here. I think he doesn't have his weapons. If you look at some of the yardage separations for the receivers, the Dolphins are like dead last in separation right now, and that's when they're healthy, and they're not healthy at all. You got a good secondary for the Patriots. Look, anytime you tell the Patriots the year is over, this is where they win. This is where they rise up, and they've already beaten the Dolphins once this year. So I know historically speaking, everyone's going to use the stat that I think it's 1-4 over the last 5 straight up for the Patriots in Miami over the last 5 years. in December or later over the last 5 meetings. I get it. This is a game the Patriots normally lose, but I just think this is a game where you've got too many injuries for Miami. They can't move the football on good defenses, and they rely on their defense to turn the football over, but mostly it's with interceptions. As long as the Patriots don't fumble the football away, I think they find creative ways to move the ball on the Dolphins, and I think everyone thinks the Patriots are done. And plus 2.5, give me the Patriots.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the games that I have on my, all right, I kind of like it. I'm not totally against it, which is surprising because sometimes I'm like, this is one where I could roll with, and you're like, nah, man, I'm on the other side. So that's something where I think we put in the consensus generally split 55% on Miami, but the consensus spread is 1.5 right now, not 2.5. So, I'm fine with it. I think it's a good bounce back spot for the Pats. And again, I trust Bill Belichick, although Flores is a fine coach. But here, we don't love Tua. We don't, especially without the weapons. I think it's a decent one. I'll start with...
so you do have games.
Oh, you just want to go? You can go. I don't.
If you don't have games, I have games. So it just depends.
You know what? You go with a couple. Then
all right.
You start with yours because it is true. Like, I'm essentially forcing myself to pick one or two, but you go ahead with a couple, and then when you run out, I will throw maybe a couple of light leans I have if you haven't covered them already. Go ahead.
There's three. There's three games that I'm comfortable playing. I think this newfound Mitchell Trubisky's a good quarterback thing is hysterical. I think this is like fool's gold to the 10th degree fool's gold. So the Houston Texans are trash. They are done. They are awful. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, could Trubisky have a chance to start? Could he be back next year? This is incredible. The Vikings are going to kill the Bears this weekend. This is going to be, I think the Vikings are going to wipe the field with Chicago this weekend, and because they got something to play for. The Bears got nothing to play for, and the second that you give Trubisky any love or anything of a praise, it's when this dude falls on his face. Laying 3.5, I don't care. Vikings minus 3.5 over the Bears big.
So I had 5 games, Matt. 5 games where I was like, I have a lean on these games. I don't love these games, but I have a lean on them. And the rest legitimately fell into, these are toss-ups. If Matt has like a strong feeling on them, I'll be able to be talked into it, but not something where I'm definitely going after. And you have picked 2 of the ones where I've had a lean on Vikings laying 3.5 to the Bears. I completely agree. I mean, I feel like Kirk Cousins is sort of this, entity that you can solve, that you can be like, no, this is a fade Kirk Cousins spot. This is a buy Kirk Cousins spot. This is more of a fade of the Bears, which is what you're saying, which I'm completely fine with. But I do think that the Vikings are not a terrible football team. I don't think Kirk Cousins is a terrible quarterback. It's just much more of when everybody tries to buy into him, then I'm like, no. Or when it looks like he's a world beater, then you're like, no, man, you're done. For here, I agree. I have the Vikings winning this game big. At least I lean that way. So I am good with that one. This is shocking to me that I had 5 like leans, and you're just like coming and firing on 2 of them. So go ahead with your third one. If you hit 3 out of 3, I don't even know what I'm going to do. But go ahead.
All right, this is a third, and this is a numbers play. All right, I don't love this, but Dallas Cowboys are catching 3.5 points here. Dallas is. I don't like the Elliott injury. It's making me a little skittish. But I think when you have home dogs late in the year, I think you got to take a long, hard look at them and kind of try to go, okay, what's the most logical thing that's going to happen? And I think Dallas is in a pretty good spot here, catching 3.5 points at home. And look, San Francisco can run the football, okay? And I know people are saying Nick Mullins and this is a team. On the road, why is Dallas a 3.5 point dog to anybody at home in the NFC that's got a losing record like the 49ers? I'll take the 3.5 points here and take a 3-point loss to San Fran at home and cover on the hook. Dallas plus 3.5.
I have been on both sides of this game, Matt. Like I can't get a feel for it. It strikes me as Dallas is okay so long as they're playing against a crappy defense.
Right.
And if they're playing against a decent defense, I don't trust that they're able to move the ball. The line is completely beat up. Andy Dalton is just nothing whatsoever. At the same time, San Francisco is nothing to write home about, as we saw. What worries me a little bit is the fact that we've seen San Francisco look terrible and then come out the following week and look pretty decent. Now, they've got some injuries here. They've got no Deebo Samuel. They may have no Raheem Mostert here. But I don't know, man. I get it. This is a week of home dogs, by the way, right?
Yes.
There are a ton of home dogs this week.
Well, there's only one game in the whole slate with two teams with winning records.
Yeah.
And you've got a lot of short favorites on the road. So a lot of home dogs.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this one, I don't even have a mild lean on it. So I don't even think I would be talked into the backing Andy Dalton. I mean, getting the hook is fine. The consensus line right now is 3. So getting the hook certainly is meaningful, especially at home. But I don't know, man. I feel like I bet against the 49ers when I shouldn't. So it's something where I'd put it to the side and it would be like, all right, whatever. I don't have a strong feeling on it. So if we run out of picks, I'd be happy to go with it. But in the meantime, I think let's put it to the side for now. Let me list the couple of games that you're probably going to hate, but that I have mild leans on, okay? This one, to me, Matt, seems like the most public play to the point where after this past week, the line seems like it is begging you to take the Browns against the Giants. 4.5, the Browns laying 4.5 to the Giants. I get that the Browns are beat up on defense. I get the fact that they just played a game that they poured their heart and soul into and lost, and so they're a little beat up. The Giants, meanwhile, coming off a terrible loss last week. But again, I don't know if Daniel Jones is going to play. If he does, it might even be better because he's so limited right now with the hamstring and the ankle. The Giants defense is okay. The Browns have to keep winning though here to, remain in the playoff. I mean, they're going to make the playoffs, but to even have a chance at the division with how the Steelers are looking, it just feels like the Browns are going to, at 4.5, the consensus line's up to 6. I don't know. I feel like the Browns, but it feels like a public play to me. So what do you think of that?
Well, it's a public play, but I'll tell you, the bagmen showed up today in Vegas for the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
The Browns number rocketed here in Vegas, 4-6.
Yep.
Big movement. Why? Bags of money showed up on the Cleveland Browns.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to go with the professionals as to what they think is going to happen, where the large wagers are coming in, it's coming in on Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind this play at all. And I like that Giants defense up to a point, but I think Kevin Stefanski now has got enough weapons that he has that offense humming against anybody. You take away the pass, fine, we'll run it down your throat. You want to stack the line? Great. Baker's going over the top, and he's got guys to pass the football to. I just think this team for the Browns is playing really well late. I think Stefanski is either the finalist or the coach of the year in the NFL, so I've got no problem backing the Browns here.
Yeah, I've been so impressed with Stefanski, and I have some shares of Coach of the Year on him. It was 20-1. Again, not Coach of the Year is kind of a fun bet, by the way, for futures bet, and maybe we'll talk about that next year when we get into it, about the type of things that you can look at. But he really has impressed me, even if I wasn't that impressed with the hire. Another thing here, which, I mean, it's not a huge deal in this type of game because the Browns don't have the Odell Beckham Jr. Outside wide receiver at this point. But James Bradbury is, I don't remember if he actually tested positive or if
close contact.
He's a close contact, but I believe he's been ruled out for this game because even if you're on the list, you need to test negative for 5 days, and they're not going to be enough or something like that. So he's out. So, I mean, that makes it easier probably for Rashard Higgins, which doesn't really matter. But he's played great. He's had a great season this year, and losing him on that on the defensive backs, that's a tough loss for that team. So for me, at 4.5, it feels public, but I mean, I just sometimes I also feel like, and again, maybe it's not that public given what you're saying, but to me, it just also kind of feels like it's okay to be public sometimes if you think.
Yeah, I think I think actually the public will shy away from this game simply because I think there's some real public people that love the Giants.
Really?
The Giants have been a pretty popular public play because, I mean, when you watch their defense, I think a lot of people, if you're going to bet on somebody, it's Washington and the New York Giants are the two best teams, when you watch them at least, from week to week, and they've been cashing tickets. I mean, they won 4 games in a row, and people were coming in them with home, with being plus money dogs, and so there are some people in the public that do like the Giants and Daniel Jones, and it's just a New York football team too, so you got a more high profile, bigger market side to it. So, and Cleveland is people kind of laugh at them, right? That they expected Baker to fall on his face on Monday Night Football, and they expected the Browns not to rise up into that moment. And they put 42 points up on the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm fine with backing the Browns there.
Yeah, I really like this team, man. I really do. Like, their running game is great. I think Baker's playing really, really at a high level right now. They're fun to watch. So, yeah. All right, I'm good with that. All right, so there's one. I have no idea how you're going to feel about this one, Matt. I really don't, because you are a noted Bills hater, but you will back them at the right time.
I've already teased this game, so I'm already invested. So if you're taking the Bills, I'm not going to hate it.
I actually wasn't. I was going to take the Broncos, getting 6.5.
Boy.
In Denver. Now, I know. That's why I thought you were going to hate it necessarily. So what have you teased it to? To what? A half?
Pick.
Oh, to a pick. Okay.
I got it at 6.
And what's your other tease?
The Packers down to 2.
Okay. I do like that.
Saturday 2-leg teaser coming down. I'm totally ripping this off from Austin Gale from Pro Football Focus, who gave me on the air, who gave me that teaser, and I loved it and I tailed it. So I can't take it as my own, but I have bet it.
That's all right.
To taking the Bills to a pick and the Packers down to -2.
Yeah, and I do think that the Bills are going to win this game. But in Denver, man, it is something where 6.5. Again, I'd like it, of course, if it was at 7. But I do feel like, as much as I don't like Drew Lock and I don't like Denver, and they're so injured, and the Bills are playing at such a high level. Again, the one thing I feel like even now, even we could say, and you might even be able to say it in that Pittsburgh game itself, is that he's inconsistent, and you don't know how it's going to come up. John Brown is out for this game, which again,
I hate Josh Allen. I can't.
I know.
I'm the captain of the Josh Allen. I can't
Right.
stay. So I'm with you on everything you're saying. I'm with you.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm concerned about is, like, what does Denver have going for it right now? I mean, what's the motivation? What's the angle? Who's playing for what? I mean, what are they getting up for? I mean, Buffalo's playing for everything right now.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, if you want to look at something, it is a nationally televised primetime game. I mean, well, I guess it's not primetime, right? Is it 4:30 or whatever on the East Coast? But it's a nationally televised game that they're going to be playing a very good team at home, chance to show something. And again, I think, Buffalo is vulnerable. The Steelers couldn't take advantage of it because their offensive line can't get any push, but they're very vulnerable against the run. And I think you're going to see a lot of Melvin Gordon, who is playing well and now is not going to be suspended because the hearing was pushed off to next week. Their defense isn't that great, but again, they have enough weapons to get by on the passing game. Noah Fant obviously didn't play last, or he played and then was removed because of the illness. Jerry Jeudy is good. Tim Patrick is really one of the more underrated players right now in the NFL. So it strikes me as a backdoor cover sort of game. And again, I can't stress enough, I don't love this game. Like, to the extent I liked any games, we sort of picked them off. But it strikes me as a backdoor cover. I do think the Bills are going to win, so I do like your teaser. I may actually trail that as well. So
it's a good teaser. I like it a lot.
It's a good teaser, yeah.
It's one day. It's Saturday, so it gives you something on the Saturdays, and it lets me kind of not really ignore, but I got a lot of money going on the Saturday college football games. So I'm going to be much more invested in college. So just tease those 2 games and hopefully just cash it and walk away.
All right. So let's put that game to the side, and let me get to my last one, which I can't imagine you're going to be okay with this, but because of the number. But the Rams laying 16.5 to the Jets in LA. The Rams are good. We have known this now, Matt, for a while, and you bet them. Kudos to you. What did you bet them, to win the division, or?
I bet them to win the West when they were 1 game behind Seattle at plus 265.
Okay, yeah, they're a legitimate team. Kudos to I thought when Wade Phillips left on the defense, but Staley has really done a good job. Their defense is legitimate. Their offense is good enough, and Cam Akers is good. The Jets have an okay run defense, actually, but I think Akers will be good enough. And if not, then I think Goff, that Jets don't get pressure. That's what messes up with Goff. I think he's going to be able to pick them apart with Woods and Kupp. And the Jets are so abysmal that, like, a normal number where you look at 16.5 points, yeah, that's value on the Jets.
Right.
I guess.
No, it's on the Rams. It's value on the Rams.
Well,
I'm with you. If you want to lay this, I'm okay.
Yep.
I've seen people that I respect say that they would lay this number up to 30. that they wouldn't, and they're not even kidding. Like they're legitimately, like, they're going to run the ball. And they're going to just run it and run it and run it and run it. And the game's going to be over very quickly. The Jets are not going to score anything.
Yeah.
And they'll probably turn the ball over 2 or 3 times. And it's going to be like a 35-0 win.
Right. It's very difficult. I mean, again, and you saw Seattle. Seattle like lives to play one-score games. Like they do whatever they can to. Seattle, won that game so ridiculously easy. The Rams have, there's blood in the water right now.
Yeah.
They are really rolling. They're trying to put away that division. I don't know, man. It really strikes me as just a game where they're going to win by like 25 points.
I don't think you can put a line high enough, to be quite honest. I mean, like the whole deal, I talk about this on the Daily Juice a lot, but like, what is a line? A line is a number that the bookmakers put up so the professionals would take the dog.
Right.
That's what a line is. That's all it is, okay? They're trying to set a number there because the public's going to take a favorite always. They always take the favorite. So how high can I put the number up so we get the money coming in on the other side? And I don't know if they can set a number high enough to get the pros to come in here on the Jets.
Yeah, and it's already moving up. It's already at 17.5. Just realistically, the Jets are one of these teams that you realistically cannot back no matter what under any circumstances. And occasionally they cover. And they showed up against the Raiders that time where we had the Raiders laying 7.5 points. But with this, the defense is too strong, I think, for the Rams.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll get it there. Let's go through then. That's it for me.
Okay.
I'm done. Do you have any others that you have leans on, or you want me to just
start
going through?
Not really. I mean, I think I have gone back and forth. I texted you before. I don't want to use it. I'm just making this a proclamation. It's going to be a bet that I'm making, but I'm taking the Saints to beat the Chiefs.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. So the Saints are getting 2.5 from the Chiefs in KC, right?
Which is an awful line, by the way. Which I'm really mad at DraftKings for putting that line there. That's a joke because that line's going to close at 3.5.
Right.
So they put it at 2.5, thinking the money would come the other way. I don't know if they thought that Drew Brees was playing, and thus everyone would come crashing in on the Saints. So that's why they put it at 2.5.
Yeah.
But this line under 3, it's not playable for us because of that reason. But I think this Saints team is going to put together a type of performance that the Patriots had a couple of weeks ago against the Chargers where everybody was like, they're not going to be able to score. They can't do anything. And then Sean Payton comes up with a crazy game plan that takes advantages and exploits everything what the KC Chief defense can't do. And they're coming off of an embarrassing loss to the Eagles. And the Chiefs are just treading water. I mean, they, much like the Steelers, will benefit from a loss here before they go to the postseason. They need to figure things out, and they need to kind of get back and right the ship a little bit because I think everything is trending in the wrong direction for the Chiefs right now, and they don't have a killer instinct. They're bored. They're not playing tight or tough games for 4 quarters, and I think that could really burn them in the playoffs, come a fourth-quarter team that may be able to rise up and come back on them and knock them out. So I think they lose this game to the Saints on Sunday.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, we talked about it. I don't know if I can get there. I mean, with 2.5, I can't get there. I know that. We talked about that. And the consensus line right now is at 3. I like where your head is at with it. And we talk about it all the time. There is something missing with the Chiefs, right? I mean, even this last game against the Dolphins, and you actually in one of the other contests, you had the Chiefs, right? Over the Dolphins. What was it? 7.5?
7, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So they could have put that game away pretty easily. And before
they threw 3 interceptions in that football game, and they still could have covered, and they didn't.
I know.
I mean, it was just like, that's why Tua and the Dolphins, they did nothing in that with all those turnovers. They should have won that game with all the turnovers. I mean, Chiefs were literally handing them the football game, and they couldn't take it. Yeah. If they do that with the Saints are taking it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're making good points. We're not going to put it in the contest, but I am thinking about how I will bet it, generally speaking, and yeah, I was surprised that it was 2.5, especially after the Saints lost to the Eagles. But yeah, it's interesting. I'll take a closer look, but not for this.
I'm going to watch I'm going to wait, and I'm going to watch the public bet against it, and I'll sprinkle on the money line, but I'll take as many points as you want to give me here on the Saints, and I'm hoping to get over 3.5 to 4, whatever it might be. And then, look, if it got really stupid, it won't get there. But if it ever got to like 6, then fine, I would tease it down and I would take the Chiefs.
Sure.
But I think this is a game where you may need some Patrick Mahomes magic coming back late, trying to drive this team down the field to win a football game. And I don't know if you can do that against the Saints.
Interesting. All right. Well, I like where your head is at. I don't have, the intestinal fortitude to bet against Patrick Mahomes at this moment, but I get it. All right, let's get to some of the other games here. What do you think about the Packers are laying 8.5 to the Panthers in Green Bay? I know you've already teased it down.
Yeah, Saturday game. I don't like the number being over 7 there. I think they win the football game. I think they'll win it by 7. It's a number for me. I don't like that number. I don't think it's a blowout victory, but I do think they win the game by 7.
Yeah, I agree. It's not Bridgewater, generally speaking, if you're giving Bridgewater a big line, I always like
Yeah.
him as the possibility to cover, but I'm not backing the Panthers
No,
in
he's
this.
Teddy covers, man. That's
Yeah,
what he does.
Teddy covers. I know.
He covers big lines like crazy because he throws the football around, but they're not. I mean, DJ Moore is out of this game. And
No,
they're not
he's
gonna,
in.
Oh, he is in.
He's in. He's in.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
They're
So
expecting him to play. So that's also something where
that's big.
but,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's back. So he's going to be in the game. But still, there's no Christian McCaffrey. He's
Right.
out. Mike Davis has been a fine fill-in. But the problem with the Packers is I feel like the Packers could just as easily win a game by 40 as they could keep it really close at this point, right? So it's hard ever for me to basically be like, well, there's value. Teddy's going to cover, because I don't have a good sense of when Aaron Rodgers is just going to be like, this is kind of an FU game. I'm putting up, I'm throwing for 5 touchdown passes. So I'd leave it alone. How do you feel about the Bucs laying 5.5 to the Falcons in Atlanta? It's your Magic Peralta-ism, so I don't know if you prefer the Falcons or if you just don't like either side.
It's a no play, but I mean, it's a game where the Peralta 2-team teaser that will happen on Sunday is eyeballing the Bucs big time. If it gets to 6 and I can tease it down, I will use it in a teaser. I think the Bucs will win the football game. I think the Atlanta love is going to calm down a little bit this week, but I mean, I got to see injuries. Julio's playing, right? He's back.
I don't think so. No, I think
out?
he's done.
No.
I think he hasn't been declared out, but the coach, they said basically earlier in the week that he is, quote, week to week, and when you're week to week in week 15, and he's not practicing, so I bet he's going to be out, and I think you can bet it that way.
Yeah, so if he's out, I think that I just like the Bucs to win the football game. But there is definitely something wrong with the Bucs.
Yes,
and their offense is a problem. I think much like what I thought was going to happen. I thought they'd make the playoffs as a wild card team. I bet them to win 10 games. I think they'll win 10 games. They've got 8. You need 2 more wins. You beat the Falcons twice, and you got the 10 wins you need. They got the Lions next week as well. And I just think that this. But when you look at how they scored. They got a lot of really good breaks in that football game last week that let it become a blowout.
Yep.
It wasn't so much their offense, going up there and throwing up a big number. I mean, that Gronk pass interference call at the end of the half.
Yep.
I mean, when have you seen that thing get called?
Yeah.
Nobody gets that call. And they got it for, a score late right before half and whatnot. So I'm still not sold that this team actually likes playing in this offense for Bruce Arians, but I am comfortable hearing them to win the football game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't. And again, the Falcons are decent. Their defense is decent. They've been playing better over the last several weeks. So, yeah, I'm with you. It's just kind of a stay away from me. What about the Titans laying 10.5 to the Lions in Tennessee?
It's just too much. I mean, 10.5 for this Titans team is just like, what? I just can't do it. I think they win the game, obviously. And this is another game that I may look to tease as well. If I can get that thing down, if I get it down closer to 3, I'll be more comfortable teasing it and taking the Titans. But, I mean, Stafford's playing, right?
Nope.
He's out for sure?
Nope. He's not either one. Not either one.
We just don't know.
I am, when I'm considering it from a betting perspective and from a fantasy perspective, I'm assuming he's out. He hasn't practiced this week. They're going nowhere. He's banged up. I think it's going to be Chase Daniel.
Well, I mean, then maybe I would consider it, but it's still double digits, so it's still a lot. But I mean, again, this would be definitely if Stafford's out, I'll tease this for sure. This will be part of my teaser. But
yeah, this is one. Realistically, I don't love it or anything like that.
Right.
But I'm actually, I don't love it. If I had to pick a side, it probably would be the Titans. I mean, just you saw what they did. Derrick Henry's going to run for 200 yards in this game, and it's just going to they're going to be able to do whatever they want to do offensively, and it's just a matter of if Stafford is in. Then I can see sort of Stafford manages to have the backdoor covers and keep things close. If it's Chase Daniel, who barely throws the ball past the line of scrimmage, I don't know. I'd almost feel okay with them laying even the 10.5. It's a big number. Big number. But I think I'd actually probably feel okay with it if it were Daniel. But anyway, let's go to the next one. Colts laying 7.5 to the Texans in Indianapolis.
All right, so we know the Texans are done, right? After last week, they're pretty much toast.
Yep.
The Colts will have a monster victory. I'm just a little concerned that they start believing their own press clippings in this game, and it's a divisional game.
Yep.
So over 7.5 is over 7's why I didn't like it. But I do think the Colts are going to beat the Texans here, and I do think I think it's a quick game. Run the football, get out of there with a win. Don't worry about the margin.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's not a game that I want to go near. And again, we saw it 2 weeks ago where we wound up being on the right side, even though we weren't on the right side, which you knew because you didn't like that game. I talked you into it. And then we went with it and we won. Yay! Even though we were clearly the wrong side. I do think that the Texans are going to be able to keep this one close. I think the Colts are going to win for sure. But I do think the Texans over a touchdown, I just can't. Because the Colts defense is not strong enough to prevent Deshaun Watson from doing Deshaun Watson things, especially if he's got perhaps Brandon Cooks back, which it looks like he might. So it's a stay away from me. I agree. This one's interesting, though, Matt. How do you feel about Washington getting 5.5 from the Seahawks in Washington?
Alex Smith is out, right?
We don't know. But if Alex Smith is out, I think about it both ways, Matt, because I do kind of have pretty different feelings on the game depending on who's at quarterback. If Alex Smith is in, I kind of like Washington. If he's not, I kind of like Seattle. I know it's 5.5, but
is Gibson playing?
No, Gibson's almost certainly not going to play.
So if Gibson and Smith are out, yes, on the other side, I'm totally comfortable taking the Seattle Seahawks. Totally comfortable.
So I might leave that one then on the side to say that one's going in. I think that's what's going to happen. Smith may play. He may play at this point because he's sort of trending up and everything like that. But
what's with them in the first half, too, by the way?
I don't know.
See his numbers?
Yeah.
His numbers in the first half are horrible. And in the second half, I don't know what happens, but he just starts playing like Joe Montana in the second half. He's great.
Yeah, I know. I love Alex. I mean, I think this whole story is amazing. And I've actually always liked him. I've always thought he was kind of an underrated QB. But yeah, this is one where if it is Haskins, and I feel pretty confident Gibson's out. But if it's Haskins and there's no Gibson, this just strikes me. The defense is legitimate for Washington without question, but with that offense, even though it's a Peraltism, I would feel okay with doing it.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like playing it, but given the circumstances, I think the line would be much different. If Alex Smith gets ruled out, I don't think that line's 5.5. I think it's going to go over 7
and
most likely.
Right now it's steady at 5.5. That's where it is. And it's basically on the bet analyzer, it's split down the middle, which I think is fair. I think 5.5 at this point, assuming that Smith does play, that's a pretty fair line.
Because the defense for Seattle is awful.
Right. Well, it's playing a little better of late. It's playing a little better of late now that Adams is back healthy. It's playing a little better, but I agree, it's not great. And Washington, I mean, the thing about Russell Wilson right now, who is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Don't get me wrong. He's taking a ton of sacks at this point. He's making some poor decisions at time, which is like the anti-Russell Wilson. If you're going to give me that defense and the pressure they're going to get on Wilson. It's a little Carson Wentz-y in the way he's like holding the ball way too long, and then eventually he's just sacked. Then, it's something where I think they might be able to keep the ball close. But again, the game close. But again, if it's Dwayne Haskins, forget it. Like, I'm just not going anywhere near it. How about the Ravens laying 13.5 to the Jaguars in Baltimore?
I just talk about letdown spot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just you're asking for the Jags to come out and cover that line, and that is just a perfect. There is just if you want to talk about the one double-digit line where I'm comfortable taking the 13.5, it's Jacksonville. I would be comfortable taking that plus 13. If you want a big dog on the card, there's your big dog on the card.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to put that as a maybe, actually, just because, again, Gardner Minshew is a fun guy, but if it were Glennon, then I would be like, no, it doesn't matter. I don't care. Like, I'm fine with the Ravens. It doesn't really matter to me. Now, they have, by the way, all these COVID issues where Hollywood Brown and Miles Boykin are on the COVID list. My understanding is that they're just close contacts, and they were designated as such early enough that they are, if they do test negative, they are going to play on Sunday. And to the extent that makes a difference, obviously it doesn't really matter. The Jaguars are completely vulnerable to tight ends. It's going to be a huge game for Mark Andrews. But I think Minshew is going to be able to put up points, man, because he's just going to go nuts and run around like a maniac and be able to sort of keep it close. He'll give me 13.5.
Yeah, it's just a backdoor special.
Yes.
What that is. It's just a backdoor special.
We'll put it as a maybe. Okay. Let's get to this one, Matt. Is really interesting. I've been on both sides of this game as I've worked through it and I've kind of dug into it for fantasy purposes. Cardinals laying 6.5 to the Eagles in Arizona.
This is really every week there's a game I hate. This is the game that I hate because everything screams Cardinals here to me. You're talking about start number 2 for a rookie. You've got tape now on Jalen Hurts. You know what he looks to do. You know he doesn't throw the ball all that well down the field, but he likes to get you into passing situations and then run and pick up the first down. Cardinals defense is athletic. Buda Baker and company, they can run. They're fast. They can run you down. You can run the ball on them with a big physical offensive line. Eagles don't have that. You have to look at the receivers for the Eagles. They're okay. Miles Sanders had a monster game. You assume that the Cardinals are going to stack up to stop the run and not let him have a big game running the football and put it all on Jalen Hurts' shoulders. On the other side, you got a team and you got an offense that has not looked great over the last couple of weeks, but nice win on the road against the Giants last week. And Kyler Murray ran a bit more than I thought he was going to. Picked up a couple of first downs. I mean, this screams Cardinals, but I feel like it's too public.
I don't have it. I don't have the feel for it. I really don't. I mean, I think Murray looks a little healthier lately.
Yes.
Right? He does. He was running a little bit more. I think the Eagles are so decimated on defense. I think it's going to be an absolutely monstrous DeAndre Hopkins game. I think they're going to be able to score. I don't have a sense yet about Jalen Hurts and what they're going to be able to do to, okay, now we've seen him. Now we know what this is. They designed a ton of runs for him, but he's incredibly athletic when he gets out of the pocket and things sort of start breaking down. Receivers have a way of getting open, which is good because the receivers for the Eagles are not particularly fast, and so you need something to be able to get them separation. So it's just a game where at one point I talked myself into the Cardinals, another point I talked myself into the Eagles, which means I'm talking myself out of the game because I just don't have a good sense of it. So I think I feel like you, where if there's a game where I was just like, I've got nothing on this game, It's not a game that I really want to touch.
Because Doug Peterson's 19-3, right? Or something stupid like that with backup quarterbacks and not having Carson Wentz as the starter. Like, it's just, he's a much better coach. He calls a better game. The guys respond better. So there's something to that. I think they hated Carson Wentz. I think they absolutely hate that guy's guts. And so they're playing hard for Jalen Hurts, and I think there's something to be said for that. But cross country on the road, I mean, I don't know. I mean, gun to my head, I'm taking the Cardinals.
I can't tell if Hurts was sort of a novelty
right,
or whether or not he's going to be able to have this sustained. So for fantasy purposes, as you'll see, I think he's a guy you can probably rely on because I think he's going to do enough with his legs to get out there. Whether or not they're going to be enough to hang with the Cardinals, who I think are probably going to play better offensively given the injuries to the Eagles and given the fact that Kyler Murray is generally getting healthier, it's too tough for me. It's a stay away. Last one, Steelers laying 12.5 to the Bengals in Cincinnati.
This is the line just is too heavy for me with this Steelers team right now just because of where Ben is and what the Steelers have looked like. I mean, they couldn't move the football the way that they should have against the Bills. I think something's wrong with Pittsburgh, to be quite honest. So if I had to bet it, I'd take the points.
Yeah, I despise this game as well. There is something wrong with the Steelers for sure. I mean, they can't run the ball, but part of that is the fact that they have their offensive line gets zero push.
Yeah.
They can't. Ben is desperate to not get sacked, so that every throw.
Do you think he's hurt?
I think that Ben, how old is Ben? 38? 30?
Yeah.
However old Ben is.
38, I believe, yeah.
Ben is old and has taken a beating in his whole life. So I don't think he's 100%. I think he's good enough to get out there, but I think that they are desperate to protect him. And
the one thing that was difference between Roethlisberger and Brady didn't lose the velocity on the football.
Yeah.
Brady always had the RPMs. He always could get the ball out fast, and that's what saved his bacon, right? Those were lollipop throws against the Bills.
Yeah,
there was nothing behind those throws.
I think the elbow injury that he suffered last year at his age probably took the fastball away.
Yeah.
That's really what it is, right? And he's underthrowing guys, right? Like you saw it, I think 2 weeks ago where, James Washington had the cornerback beat and Ben just couldn't get it there. He couldn't get it there and they want to get the ball out. So I'm definitely worried about the Steelers long term against the Bengals, which, by the way, it might even be, not that Brandon Allen is anything to write home about, but it might be Ryan Finley in this game where you're like, oh my God, the defense is going to destroy that team. But I don't know. No, I just don't want to do it. If you're telling me that I have to take the Steelers against anyone laying double digits, I'm just probably not doing it. At the same time, I can't go with the Bengals. They're just abysmal. They're just a terrible football team, and they're poorly coached. And you have called this forever, but it's just, I can't back.
How did Zach Taylor get that job?
You have been like banging that drum since I first met you.
Because I covered the dude in college.
Yeah,
I was there when he was at Nebraska. I was covering the Huskers, and at no point in time did I ever hear anyone say that, like, that Zach Taylor guy, he'd be a good coach.
Do you know, Matt, that now I'm remembering this as we're talking here? The first time I heard you mention that was when you were a guest last year on the BettingPros NFL podcast, and we were talking about the Bengals, and you had this mini tirade against Zach Taylor. It's so funny that it's just coming back to me.
He's just awful. He never should have gotten that job. And just because he breathed the same air as Sean McVay, that was good enough for the Bengals. Well, okay, 36-year-old ex-quarterback coach. Let's hire him as the head coach. And it's like, look, he got Joe Burrow, and that's a huge feather in his cap to have Joe Burrow, and so you're going to win games and look decent with Joe Burrow, but your real coaching acumen comes out when you don't have superstars. And look what the Bengals look like now.
And again, look, their offensive line is terrible. But, things like, silly things like Giovanni Bernard, and maybe I am a little angry about this because of fantasy purposes and where I might have had him ranked. But the idea that Gio Bernard fumbles on the first play and then he's benched until the second half. And then, Travion Williams fumbles, but he gets back. It's just little things like that. I feel like, it's tough. The season without Burrow, the season's certainly gotten away from them. I can't back them, but I really don't want to back the Steelers with double digits. All right. So here's where we are, Matt. We liked the Patriots getting 2.5 from the Dolphins. We were both good with that. We liked the Vikings laying 3.5 to the Bears. So those are two games that we were both like, yeah, okay, we can lean that way. We kind of came around on the Browns laying 4.5 to the Giants. Mm-hmm. And we kind of like the Rams laying 16.5 to the Jets. We've got three other games that I think we were basically talking through. You like the Cowboys getting 3.5 from the 49ers. We might like the Seahawks laying 5.5 to the Washington football team if both Gibson and Alex Smith are out. Yeah. And we kind of maybe could see ourselves taking the Jaguars getting 13.5 points from the Ravens. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So which one I'll let you take the fifth one here, Matt. Do you like is that your favorite, the Cowboys plus 3.5, or
no? I would prefer if Smith and Gibson are out. I would prefer to take Seattle.
That's going to be the game then. That's fine. Now, what if they're in? Do you prefer the Cowboys plus 3.5 from the Niners or the Jaguars plus 13.5 from the Ravens?
Oh, that's a really good question.
And again, we're not locking ourselves in. Also,
I would say the Cowboys are.
Don't know,
I think the Cowboys are more likely because they're at home and they're catching 3.5, and I like home dogs at plus 3.5.
Okay, that's fine. Again, that's not a game. This is more of in a slate where I am like, man, I don't really know. I've talked myself into both sides of that Cowboys 49ers game, so that's fine with me. Cowboys plus 3.5. Okay, so those are the unofficial picks here for our for the contest and for the week. Patriots getting 2.5 from the Dolphins, Vikings laying 3.5 to the Bears, Browns laying 4.5 to the Giants, Rams laying 16.5 to the Jets, and the Cowboys getting 3.5 from the 49ers. So, all right, that's a good mix. As usual, Matt, once we talk it through, I like the bets a little bit better than I did coming through, which is why this podcast is good just for us. Yep. But again, we do have a bye week left. So unless we feel, comfortable, we may take it this week or we may punt this week. Even if we don't take it this week and our contest ends for purposes of our picks in it, we'll still be back every week. We'll be back week 17 talking about it. We'll be back.
We got to bet it, man. We got to bet it.
We got to bet it. We got to bet it. We don't just do it for the contest. We actually, do the betting. So we're there. All right. Excellent. As always, please tune into the Daily Juice. My goodness. The Daily Juice podcast, the best. How many people in the Discord channel now, Matt? I always like to talk about it.
In totality?
Yeah. Do you have any idea?
Yeah, there's 1,800 people who are signed up for the Discord chat that we started a month and a half ago. On a given day, on a given like prime time Thursday night, Monday night game, we'll have over 250 people in there.
It is the best, man. Watching that, I'm telling you, I'm in there sometimes. I'm not because I'm doing a lot of fantasy, but watching that Ravens game, the end of that game with everybody in the Discord. Oh my God. It's just fun. BettingPros.com/chat. It's so fun just to be with other people who have action on a game, who are talking about it. It's a
virtual bar. It's what it is. It's a virtual bar.
It's so fun. Totally free. You don't have to be just go BettingPros.com/chat. Sign up. It's a ton of fun to do. And Matt's in there all the time. And again, Matt, you sometimes give plays in there as well.
I drop a lot of plays. I'll when I add things, if I add a prop or if I add something officially for the Daily Juice, because we track the bets on the Daily Juice. So if I officially put something in play, I hit at everyone and everybody sees it. So I put that teaser that we talked about, the Saturday football teaser for the Packers and the Bills, went into the Discord chat. No one's heard on the podcast yet, but if you're on the Discord chat, you got that well before everybody else.
Yes, absolutely. It's a great place. And P.S., as soon as the football season is over, probably going to take a couple of days to catch my breath, the regular season, but then my baseball projections start. So that's going to be a lot of fun because it's going to be talking about a lot of win totals. We'll drop it all in the Discord channel. Matt and I will still talk about it, I'm sure. We'll do all that good stuff. Anyway, for now, thanks for tuning in. You've got our bets. I will tweet them out on Saturday as to what exactly we are doing and our favorite plays. But until then, have an excellent couple of games. You're listening to this after the game, but I hope you enjoyed this crazy Raiders-Chargers game that's about to happen. And we will talk to you here on the same podcast channel next week.